is 3 o'clock. This is Queen City News Plus live on a Friday. Coming to you live from the Blue Room. I'm Derek Dellinger alongside anchor Morgan Francis, meteorologist Andrew Bryman, as well as producer-director Austin McCollum on what has been we have a jam-packed show, for lack of better words, today.
We do.
When we do want to start off with the weather situation, at least as of right now, as it stands. The governor had a briefing a little bit earlier today saying that we can expect a disruption of life for several days across the state because of this winter storm that could be coming in.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind, these road crews, they just got done. If they did get done spreading brine on the roads before they had to
continuing work in progress,
back up again. I mean, they were doing 12-hour shifts constantly throughout last weekend storm and leading up to it.
And this week,
and now again this week. So they're doing the brine. They got the plow trucks ready. They're prepping for this weekend storm, but I think the impact is going to be much different than the storm that we had last weekend. It's not going to be as much of an ice event, which Andrew will detail in just a little bit, but more so the fluffy stuff. But, you know, it's still a danger when the roads are a little bit more slick than normal.
Yes, 1,400 NCDOT crews have been out putting more than 2.6 million gallons of brine out on the roads. And frankly, if you've been across Charlotte in any way, shape, and form, you have noticed all that brine that they have out on the roads. Just
I
to
need
make
that
sure
put
that
into
safe.
perspective. Like, how many football fields, how many swimming pools are we dealing with
But,
here?
quite a bit.
It's hard to put it into perspective.
But you have seen how much lighter looking the roads are, at least as of right now, because of all that is out there.
But you can see the tracks of the brine when they put it
Yeah.
down. You can see that started to spread across the road.
And luckily, it's been relatively dry, so the rain or whatever we might get beforehand isn't necessarily kind of washing some of that away. We do want to get a check on exactly what this is going to be looking like and what the timeline is all going to be. Meteorologist Andrew Bryman here, and what are we looking for here, and what exactly can people expect, and when, I guess, is
When's
probably
it
the most
starting?
important.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be potentially, I'd say very likely, the biggest snowstorm we've seen here in Charlotte since at least 2018. The question is, do we start getting back to the 2014 storm? I think we picked up about 7.5 inches of snow in Charlotte on that, so that's going to be kind of what we're going to be watching with this storm system. It's going to be significant here. It's not just the snow, but the cold, the wind. Snow's going to be blowing around tomorrow and potentially on your Sunday morning as this storm moves through. A powerful nor'easter. Just because it happens into the jet stream, this thing isn't riding up the coast. This is a Carolina special on the way here, because it's really only North and South Carolina that's going to be seeing this snow move through with this particular storm. You know, farther off to the north, they got their snow last weekend. Then we do have those dangerous wind chills on the way here. One place I'm watching for the first flakes from this system is up here in Boone. The clouds have rolled in, but nothing yet falling from the skies just yet. But this is the first place I'm going to be watching here for potential snowflakes to be coming on down. Let's just say there's a lot of people under winter storm warnings here across the Carolinas. In fact, I think it's the entirety of both North and South Carolina are currently under winter storm warnings. It looks like Atlanta, too, got upgraded to winter storm warnings as well. So a significant winter storm on the way here across the South as we go through the next day or so here. It's going to be basically all confined for us, at least when it comes to our Saturday. Temperatures right now, 41 degrees here, light and variable winds, not warming up again. It's been a week of just consistently temperatures 10 degrees below where they should be. It has been very, very impressive in terms of this cold weather. Pinpoint satellite imagery, notice the cloud cover up in the mountains. That's the beginning here of this storm system. And already pinpoint radar picking up a little bit of snow as we get up into the mountains here. Nothing quite reaching the ground yet in Boone, but maybe some of those mountain peaks. Already starting to see maybe the first flakes from this event. As we zoom out here, you can see kind of the light snow as we get towards southeastern portions of Kentucky, eastern Tennessee. That is the start of this system here, but there's a lot of dry air. Got to saturate the atmosphere first. Talking more, everything you need to know about the system, hours, totals, wind chills. I got it and a whole lot more coming up in a few minutes.
I know this is like your Super Bowl,
It
right?
is. I am
predicting
hyped
the
right now.
snowstorms. All right, we'll check back in with you in a little bit, Andrew. Kind of some breaking news out of Statesville. The NTSB, which is what we have been expecting for a while now, their preliminary report on the Statesville plane crash has come out. If you remember, that was the one involving NASCAR legend Greg Biffle, his wife Christina, and two kids, as well as 3 others on that plane that crashed, as you said, just a week before Christmas.
Yes, this is the report that's come out within the last about hour or so. that details. It's a preliminary report, and it indicates, simply put, that there were apparently multiple issues. There were issues with this flight, and they noticed it just as, frankly, it's just the plane was taking off
right away. And just keep in mind that this is a preliminary report, so there will be no definitive cause that investigators say caused the plane to go down. A full probe still ongoing. That will be another year or two until that comes out. But first and foremost, the pilot was Dennis Dutton. The right passenger / co-pilot was his son Jack, and he did not have the qualifications to be in that seat. And this plane did require a second in command. That said, here were the issues with the plane. It reported left side instruments, so the altitude indicator and others were failing. The thrust on the left engine, not only noticeable to the pilot, but also to some of the other passengers who were, private plane pilots. They noticed that too, that it was the left engine, the thrust was stronger than the right. So, number of issues: poor gauges, poor condition on the engine gauges. They had a tough time seeing their altitude. So, at some point, it switched over to the son flying the plane. The audio is a little hard to hear at some points. At least that's what it seemed in the report.
The plane did have a cockpit voice recorder. It did not have a flight data recorder. It was not required to have a flight data recorder. We should mention that. But it did have a cockpit voice recorder, and there was some discussion in the plane with one of the passengers, possibly Greg Biffle, but also some of the other people, with also the pilots themselves, the ones that are actually in the front seats, regarding potential power issues, potential other issues, but they're also having these gauge issues as well. So it looks like there was a multitude of issues they were trying to land at the time that this was all going on. But apparently there was some catastrophic failure that happened that led to this happening. In addition to that, they also hit this light stand that was actually out on the
1,300 feet from the runway. Yeah. And here's another thing that I think we want more clarification on is the report said that they tried to reach out to air traffic control 3 times.
They did,
and it was unsuccessful because, in my words, they were busy. They were I don't know the exact verbiage that's in the report.
The exact wordage, since I have it right here, unsuccessful due to the controller's workload and associated radio communications.
And that's, that has been in the news lately, is these air traffic controllers. Now, I don't believe that would have been Statesville Airport, because I don't think they have an operational air traffic control tower.
Yes.
So I don't know what one they were trying to connect with. We have our suspicions of what one, but we're not experienced pilots enough to say specifically what one they were trying to reach. But a number of concerns out of this preliminary report. I know a lot of NASCAR fans and, obviously their loved ones want to know what happened. This just gives us an idea of a few of the things that went wrong or were concerning leading up to the crash.
Yes, and we should mention here, Statesville, as far as the air traffic control is concerned, it doesn't necessarily go through Charlotte, and we know that.
It could be Atlanta.
It could be Atlanta.
Right.
It could be another airport that was also nearby regionally that could be, for lack of better words, administrating that airspace. But this is not to say that this was a problem down here in Charlotte or necessarily anywhere else. It's just saying that this issue is an issue that showed up with the airport with Statesville, the air traffic controllers that were basically over the Statesville airport.
Right.
So again, this preliminary report is out. We have a story up on QCnews.com. We should also mention too, that the full report still not expected for at least another year to 18 months.
Going out to Minnesota, Minneapolis specifically, the DOJ is going to launch a federal civil rights probe into Alex Preddy's death. He's the more recent man who was killed by agents over the weekend. He was, protesting ICE operations there. They are not going to do the same for Renee Good, who was also killed prior to Alex Preddy.
Yes, Preddy, as far as this investigation, it's a probe more than it is investigation, but no explanation was given from the FBI, but the FBI is going to be the ones doing this. This also comes as there's been increasing controversy surrounding that, and we'll get to Don Lemon coming up in just a second because he actually has something to do with this story as well.
Right.
But Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem appeared to distance herself from statements that she made shortly after the shooting, indicating that Preddy had a handgun and was aggressively approaching officers because there's video to heavily suggest otherwise. Meanwhile, there is this thing with Don Lemon. Don Lemon, former CNN anchor, he actually has his, for lack of better words, own perch up on YouTube these days. He's doing a lot of independent journalism.
The Don Lemon Show, and
And over the weekend, well, not over the weekend, back on the 18th, there were all these protests that were happening in Minneapolis, and particularly St. Paul, and at a church there that actually had an ICE official as pastor. And some of the protesters went into that church. Don Lemon was one of the ones that was cataloging that event for, that's probably the best way to say it. And he was brought in, and it's been a lot of controversy over the fact that he was in there.
Well, he's been arrested.
He's been arrested. In fact, AG Pam Bondi, she authorized his arrest while he was in Los Angeles about to cover the Grammys.
That I find interesting too, because that was Thursday night in Los Angeles at the Grammy Awards, and then he gets arrested. But some of the protesters have already been charged, conspiracy to deprive civil rights, alleging that they conspired to intimidate people who had their right for free exercise of worship, and also interfering with religious worship. So Don Lemon had gone into this church. He live streamed the whole thing, so you can watch it for yourself. But he knew where they were going. He knew what they were doing, but he said on his live stream that he didn't. But he knew that they were going to the church. He knew exactly where this operation was going to happen. And at one point, while driving to the church, said, "We can't say too much. We don't want to give it up." So there's this question of, was he a journalist covering a protest, or was he, in a way, a part of this protest and disrupting worship? He at one point said that there were men crying in the corner, that people were scared, and that they were leaving the church while the protesters were in there, chanting Renee Good and all their other anti-ICE chants.
And I will say, as someone who has had to cover protests and demonstrations before, we have been accused of that as members of the media and reporters. We've been accused of not only egging on, but potentially protesters that are demonstrating.
There's a specific area where you stand, right?
Yes.
When there is a protest between people and police, you don't stand behind the protesters because then it appears like you're with them.
And if we're trying to get ahead of them because we know where they are going,
right?
I've been accused in the past of actually it's like, hey, they're following you. It's like, no, they're not.
Yeah,
we're trying to get ahead so we can actually get the shots that we need for our stories.
Right.
And that's kind of been an issue long in. It's a thing that we still have to deal with, for lack of better words. But the attorney for Don Lemon says his work is constitutionally protected. The reaction online to this has also been interesting. A lot of people saying it's a violation of his First Amendment rights. However, there are some on the right who say that his arrest is deserved. Let's get to some of the other stories for today. Let's talk about U.S. Senator Tom Tillis. He is blocking a nomination of a Fed governor basically up until they basically get done with this investigation into Jerome Powell that the Trump administration, or at least Trump DOJ, has been looking into, because he wants that independence from the Fed.
And Tillis, he's retiring. He's doing exactly what he wants to do in every possible way. I feel like he makes our broadcast every single night because it's always something. But his vote is needed. Yes. So if, by the way, it's Kevin Warsh, he was a member of the Fed's board for 5 years. He was the youngest governor in history at 35 years old, and currently a fellow at Hoover Institution and lecturer at Stanford Graduate School of Business. What's interesting about this pick is that he has long supported higher interest rates to control inflation. Trump has been quite expressive about wanting the opposite, but has said that, he has not asked him to commit to cutting rates, saying that would just be inappropriate. Yeah,
Senator Tillis, for his part, says that Warsh is a great qualified candidate, but that Tillis himself, he says he is asserting his rights on this because of a separation of powers thing. It's like, hey, this investigation has to end before we get into anything else. Other story happening today, also in D.C., involving Senator Lindsey Graham. He has placed a hold on government funding vote that would potentially avert a government shutdown. And this is over some provisions that are basically in the bill that he says, shall we say, are not necessarily all that great.
Something happened in John Thune's office because, he came out, that's the Senate Majority Leader. Graham came out just furious and said, we're not voting tonight. Pointed to language, as you mentioned, in the bill that would repeal a provision allowing senators to sue if their phone records were collected as a part of former special counsel Jack Smith's probe. They found out that some of their records were collected, and they were unaware of it. So he said, if you were abused, you think that you were abused, your phone records were illegally seized, you should have your day in court.
Yes, and he's also objecting to the funding issues that go for the Department of Homeland Security, which has been kind of in the spotlight the past week or two because of the shooting of Renee Good and the shooting of Alex Preddy. Graham says, and I quote here, "The cops need us right now. They are being demonized. They're being spat upon. They cannot sleep at night."
So I mean, as it seems right now, I mean, we're probably headed for a partial government shutdown.
At least as of tomorrow morning.
Happens.
As of tomorrow
tonight.
Morning. Yeah. That is a quick check on some of the headlines we have, but we have a bunch of other news and some sad news out of Hollywood to tell you about as well. That is coming up. This is Queen City News Plus Live.
.17 now. You're watching Queen City News Plus Live as we take a live look at the Queen City. At this point, tomorrow, be a very different view.
This is true.
Yeah, like a winter wonderland.
And the chances of that happening rather high at this point.
Yeah. I wonder what the percentage is. Maybe we should check.
Are you guys questioning me?
No, we're not questioning you. We're just asking what's the percentage at this point that we'll actually see something different.
That we'll see. What specifically? Are we talking about snow period? I'd say 100.
Okay.
All right. I thought this would be a quick answer. All right. We'll check in on a full forecast in just a little bit.
Shades
Some sad news though coming out of Hollywood. Catherine O'Hara has passed away.
She is probably best known as everyone's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember her from Beetlejuice. I also remember her from Home Alone, Home Alone 1 and 2,
Schitt's Creek,
Schitt's Creek, where she also played a mom there too. When I heard this afternoon, in fact, Austin told me, it was just, it was like I became a deflated balloon.
I think everyone feels that way because she's so likable.
Yeah.
I don't know her. I mean, no one does, but she
feel like you do.
You feel like you do, and
so
I guess she was dealing with some sudden undisclosed illness. Yeah. I'm sure more will come out about what exactly happened, but people are devastated. You have actually a quote up from Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to say this without welling up a little bit. So here we go. I thought we had time. I wanted more. I wanted to sit in a chair next to you, but I heard you. But I had so much more to say. I love you. I'll see you later. That's from Macaulay Culkin. He played the kid in the Home Alone movies. Catherine O'Hara played his mom.
Yeah, and I think he saw her as his like a second mom in real life too.
They were very close.
They were very close.
Yeah,
and I think we've lost a great actress, a comedian, icon.
And
funny.
Was a Canadian national treasure. She was from Canada, but also on that same point though, she was considered a national treasure there. But in many ways, a treasure to Hollywood because of just how wonderful she was, the roles that she was in. Moira Rose.
I think a lot of people know this, but she showed up the first day and said, "My character will have an accent." And they were all like, "Okay, what is it?" And she said, "You'll see. I'm not going to show it to you or let you listen to it until we start." They started filming. They couldn't even get through it. They were laughing so hard. Because they're like, what is that accent? I mean, she's just a genius.
Well, I found some old home movies of me when I was like 4 years old. And like me and my sister were doing the Deo, Mr. Deo, that scene from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
So that and she was actually in that scene, which kind of like, it's like, okay, this woman has actually been a very significant part of my childhood in one way, shape, and form.
But
because I was also a big Home Alone fan too.
She's a great writer
too. But a testament of her longevity in Hollywood. I mean, won her first Emmy, 1982 for SCTV, and then her second Emmy, 2020.
And she was actually had Emmy nominations as recently as for this, The Last of Us,
2024, I think,
and also The Studio. Actually, last year I think was she had a nomination for The Studio. And it kind of goes to show her longevity. She had basically a career renaissance because of Schitt's Creek, and it was able to she not only got an Emmy from that, but she got all these extra roles. There was the Beetlejuice sequel I remember seeing last year too. So it's again sad news out of Hollywood there. There's some other news to tell you about today as well, and this one is involving Luigi Mangione. There are actually two stories relating with him. One involves a man who's accused of impersonating an FBI agent trying to get him out of jail. He apparently said that he had a court order from a judge, which was revealed to, shall we say, not be accurate very quickly. That man, by the way, his name is Mark Anderson, is now in jail.
So he approached the intake
he's
area
out of jail now,
and claimed to be a member of the FBI.
Yes.
And he was, as you mentioned, in possession of paperwork signed by a judge authorized for the release of a specific inmate.
Yeah,
I can just imagine how this conversation went. It was probably very quick. Because then they were like, okay, do you have credentials? And he gave them his Minnesota driver's license and claimed to be in possession of weapons. So that went downhill real quick.
Yeah, and we should mention that even though the official word is that they have not necessarily said who this specific inmate was, CNBC is reporting for their part that it was indeed Mangione. That
right,
was
law
the
enforcement
person
confirmed that to them.
Yes.
So they found in his backpack a large barbecue-style fork and a round steel blade resembling a pizza cutter. So it would have taken him quite a long time to break him out of jail.
Yes. Meanwhile, there is this federal judge ruling that actually did come down a little bit earlier today in regards to Mangione. The federal death penalty is going to be off the table. They dismissed a federal murder charge, as well as another charge, dismissed a gun charge. But they kept a stalking charge in place, so he could still be facing life in prison, at least on the federal charges that he's facing. He's still facing these state charges related with that shooting of that United Healthcare CEO.
And that state trial is going to begin in July, and then a few months later, they're going to start. The jury selection for the federal trial. The reason they dismissed this charge is because they would have had to have proved that he committed a violent crime while murdering the CEO, and they said stalking is not doesn't fall under those guidelines, so it wouldn't have really made sense.
Yes. The federal judge made a point of saying that this was a technically flawed case as far as the specific murder charge. But prosecutors can use the evidence that was collected in his backpack when he was initially arrested. Right. Another story to tell you about, this one out of Oregon involving a water rescue of 2 teenage boys. Let's take a look at some of this while we're talking about it.
I'm, born and raised in Wisconsin, and it's like every year the ice is too thin and people still go out. That's the case that happened here. Some teenagers, 15, 16 years old, both of them, fell through the ice. There was a 911 call, and deputies and firefighters, as you can see from the video, they dragged them out of the water. They were cold. I mean, they asked one of the kids, "What's your name?" and he couldn't answer. He answered some other questions. So
you can see this happened Wednesday afternoon as well.
Yeah. And they were both treated for hypothermia. And it's like, gosh, it's walking out on ice. It's just because the top is frozen doesn't mean it is underneath. Yeah. And you just hear about this all the time, every winter, especially in the Midwest.
Yes. The authorities arrived within moments after receiving that 911 call. And it's a good thing, though, that the 2 teens that were there were able to make it out, and were also, for lack of better words, just able to be rescued.
There have been some ponds even around here that have been frozen on the top, and authorities have reminded people that it's not safe to walk on the ponds. So let's take a look at our forecast, bringing in meteorologist Andrew Brightman. Andrew, cold temps are going to take over this weekend in addition to the snow.
That's right, and actually, just piggybacking off your last story, actually, there was a small pond that one time I fell through the ice on. It was very shallow.
Andrew,
it was only.
How old were you, and why was it last year?
I was 14 or 15 years old. The water was only about 3 feet deep. I was like walking out on it for fun. I don't know why I did it. It was so dumb.
It's a teenager thing, though. They don't think; they just kind of do.
That was one of the most embarrassing things I've done in my childhood. Now, as we get back to your forecast in the here and now, as a mid-30s year old man here, it's 41.
Wise beyond your years.
That's what I would like to think, at least, Morgan. I appreciate that sentiment from you. 41 degrees, light and variable winds, dry conditions, dew points down in the teens, got to saturate the atmosphere, but also showing you that's where our temperatures are likely going to be going. I have seen a couple of flakes here on our Boone camera. If it can get moving again, there's a couple of flakes, not a ton right now, but the very first flakes of this event are getting going here up across the higher elevations in Boone. Not very heavy, obviously, but just what I'm watching. We're now at 1,470 days. That is the last time we saw 1 inch of snow. This is likely the last day that we're going to go without at least 1 inch of snow here in Charlotte. So this streak, we can finally put it to bed starting tomorrow. Pinpoint radar, watching up in the mountains here, first flakes of this event up across the higher elevations. We zoom out here, kind of giving you a lay of the land of what's going on. So we've got 2 things going on. There's the snow, the initial snow shield breaking out across southeastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, mountains of North Carolina, southwest Virginia. It's very, very light. Now, this area of low pressure, you see, when that hits the coast, it's going to explode in terms of energy, and we'll see a lot of precipitation get generated. Now, there's the potential for some dry air potentially impacting some people to the east of us, but that's what we're watching here. And this is what it's going to look like likely tomorrow with that coastal low right near the Outer Banks. Farther west would mean more snow potentially for us, and farther east and vice versa. But we feel pretty confident here with our forecast and what we have for the Carolinas. Futurecast in motion here. We get things rolling. Dry weather into the overnight, and then that snow fills in as we go into your early Saturday morning. Then likely we're going to see the snow rates pick up here. And I think this is a better reflection in terms of what we're going to see with our temperatures across the Carolinas. This is 10 a.m., potentially still in the teens, and they're not going to budge a lot. This is a true Arctic wave. There is fresh Arctic air, some of the coldest air we've seen all season long and maybe over the last couple of years across the Carolinas. But you see the moderate to heavy snow continuing into the evening hours, rolling out here. This is our latest update with Futurecast, maybe rolling an hour or two later here in Charlotte, and probably around midnight, maybe just after midnight Sunday morning down across the Sandhills, clearing out, and then behind it, boy, is it cold. I don't think we're getting back to freezing here on your Sunday. It's going to be a real struggle just to get that to happen. Let's talk totals. We did up the totals here slightly across the Carolinas. Now expecting a widespread 4 to 8 inch event. Could see some areas pick up locally more, maybe a little bit locally less. But I do think a widespread 4 to 8 inch snow event is likely. Down in the Sandhills, there is potential for more. Watching Rockingham and Sherrod could see some more, maybe 7 and 8 inch totals versus maybe the 5, 6, 7. I'm thinking around Charlotte, and also up in the mountains, we're thinking more snow as well. Some of the also big changes. Fairly confident that we're going to see at least 4 to 8 inches across portions of the upstate of South Carolina. Really quickly here, very cold temperatures. These are the wind chill values, single digits as we go throughout the rest of your Saturday, and then heading into your Sunday, could see sub-zero wind chills in Charlotte and nearly 30 degrees below zero as we get up into the mountains. All right, it's the Oscars all over again. Getting your pinpoint 7-day forecast here. We
Should I hit the music?
Yeah, please. Pinpoint weather alert day Saturday and Sunday for those extreme cold warnings, because that cold air is not going anywhere.
What are the qualifications for an Arctic wave?
Well, it's just this. I call it an Arctic wave because basically what's going on is that you have a storm system that's developing along this Arctic front. That there's a piece of energy that's hitting this edge of this Arctic front that's moving in, and it's causing the storm to explode. We're going to get that, what we call sometimes bombogenesis along the eastern seaboard. And it's that Arctic wave. It's not just from the southern branch, from the northern branch.
I learned something new today.
Yeah, governor's saying that this could be a multi-day event, so be ready to deal with that cleanup. See you on Monday.
Thanks for watching.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.